feeling like you're carrying the weight of the world, of your stuff, of your family stuff, and basically everything else? You're not alone. In this episode, I'm sitting down with the powerhouse Inbal Claudio to get real about why women need true community now more than ever. We're talking about ditching surface level connections, creating spaces where you actually feel seen and aligned and supported, and why emotional support isn't just nice, it's necessary. If you're craving deeper connections, you're tired of feeling like you're doing this life alone, and you're really wanting friendships that fuel your growth, this one's got your name all over it. So happy you're here. Welcome back to the podcast. I have to pinch myself sometimes because my business actually gets me so fired up because I get to be in space and energy with incredible human beings like my special guest, Inbal Claudio. And as I mentioned in the bio, she has created more than one incredible community and is really looking at life from all different sides of the coin. And you're creating communities around that. So I'm so excited about our conversation. And I just want you to just quickly introduce yourself to my community and let them get to know the magic that you are, please.
You're amazing. I just want to first start by saying thank you so much for having me. I've been looking forward to this, and you're just such a special person in general. So I'm very grateful to get the chance to just spend some time with you. My name is Inbal Claudio, like Scotty said, and I am a true community builder at heart. My mission in life is really just to make every single person that I come across feel seen, heard, and appreciated in whatever capacity that is and however I can help. I have been building communities since I can remember. I mean, I would bring together all groups of friends to my birthday parties growing up, and everybody would leave with like another best friend. And I'm like, this is so cool. I lived in Wilmington for 4 years with my husband. He was in the Marine Corps, and I would come back and like just gather everybody to go to dinner. And they're like, Emma, we only get together when you're in town. I'm like, this is great, right? I just like bringing women and people, specifically women, together. So that's me at a very like high level. I love community. I love women. I love supporting female founders as much as I possibly can. And just really the mission behind everything I do is friendship first and business second. I just feel like everything falls into place with business when you create a foundation based on friendship.
100%. And I think what's so impressive about you and what I really admire is you're constantly going off the expected path. And I think that kind of ties into what you just said about let's create businesses where we actually feel good, where there's friendships involved, where our emotions are actually nurtured and supported and not looked at as being too sensitive, right? Like as women, we've been trying so hard to fit into this, man's world. And now we're finally saying, by the way, you keep your world over there. Thank you so much. Good luck to you. I'm going to go over here and create it. And there isn't this apology anymore for bringing emotion into it, bringing the feminine and matching it up and balancing it with the masculine. And I think that's why we're starting to see more and more women create businesses. But talk to me about how did you, it was naturally that you were this bringing people together, but how did you see this as an opportunity to help women in their businesses? I'm a part of the Like-Minded Collective. Just briefly tell everybody about that specifically and why that came to be.
Yeah, so I am the founder of Goldwig Candles. It's a candle company that I still make very rarely in my house, but I was doing lots of in-person shows and events and doing really well and moved the business to North Carolina when we moved there from California and had to build a whole new community over there. And it was great. And I got married and I had my first daughter. And that's kind of when things shifted for me because I didn't have the ability to do in-person shows and I needed to pivot my business. And I had no idea what I was doing. And I had no entrepreneur friends to help me. So I basically wanted to create a space for the millions of women like myself who are solopreneurs navigating business without a dollar in their bank to be like, I can invest, right?
No.
And that's kind of what led me to create Like-Minded Collective. It's pivoted a few times, but at the core, it's really a place for women to build friendships, right? To find your business bestie, to be around women who genuinely want to see you succeed and can have those conversations without worrying about looking like a dollar sign. And it's pivoted because I needed that, right? I built this platform completely from scratch with my developer. I went through 4 different ones. It took me about 2.5 years to build out. But as I was building this, I'm like, I need this community.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it evolved. I started to do workshops that I personally needed and saw the women in my community needed as well. And we started to do monthly workshops that eventually went to weekly workshops, networking call, co-working. So that's how it started to evolve because I needed it. And as my community grew, I started to listen to what they needed and pivoted to essentially what it is now, which is a free space for women to come and grow their business together.
Yeah. It's so much more than community, because what it's really allowing humans do is to like really tap into their true identity. And like, it's, you can come in there and there's no shaming, right? If you're driven by money, if you're driven by fame, if you're driven by this desire, we're not really saying that you shouldn't do that because, society won't like you or you're going to be too emotional or people, there's not discouragement, I think, which is so important in why women are going to take over the world and why the world really needs us to take over right now, is because we're not only modeling for ourselves and for each other the importance of like following our heart, living that heart-led life, not apologizing for who we are. And that's ultimately going to create so much inner peace. And who benefits from that but our kids, the community, the people around us. But somebody's got to go first. And of course, we need these pioneers like yourself, those people that aren't afraid, that are really okay going against the grain, being the salmon and holding space for other people to see what's possible. And I think that community there's so much more of a definition than just bringing people together. You're bringing people together. And what you said before, it's like you're creating a space for us to be ourselves. And that hasn't been done a lot. I mean, how often were we in school told, sit and be quiet, you need to do what the other kids, get in line, follow this rule, do this. And so we were always conditioned to not ruffle any feathers, to modeling and be how our other friends were being, right? Not that there's, I'm all a rule follower and everything, but I think there's so much power for us being allowed to design a life that feels good to us. And you're creating that environment. And you're not only doing it online with this free space, but you're also doing it in person. So can you tell me about your in-person events that you created? Because that's really where so much energy is being magically, absorbed by each other.
Yeah. And I mean, just going back to what you said, like there are a lot of spaces online where you can go, like you were hosting incredible free calls for moms, right?
Yeah.
To just come and be, which is how I really resonated with you and your mission. And just as a human, and a lot of other women entrepreneurs are doing free events. But my biggest thing was in person, going against the grain, because I didn't see any of that in my area. It was all so transactional, right? The name tags, the handshakes. And at our events, there are no name tags and hugs, right? It feels like a warm hug. And so building this community virtually for a long time, and there's thousands of women from all over the world. But I personally moved back to Orange County where I was raised, and I needed friends, right? Like the girlfriends that I had either moved a couple hours away or were not on the same level of life that I was currently. And I needed to create my own community. So I was like, you know what, let's just start a like-minded OC and just see how it goes.
Yeah.
And I really hit the ground running to create a different type of community. And it started small. And now we do weekly events and there's a membership. But truly, the feedback that I constantly get is from women. It's so different than everything out there. Like the caliber of the energy, the women, the support, the vulnerability. Like people go to these events and truly leave like motivated, inspired on a different level.
Sure.
And because nothing like that exists, right? People just go. And I think just for community builders in general, community is so important. If you want to start your own community, the biggest thing that you have to remember is it is your job to put everybody else first. And I think what you were talking about is these communities, the community builder, the founder sometimes creates it for themselves, right? To promote their business, to promote their product, to talk about their services. They don't allow anybody else to promote their own.
Mm-hmm.
And people see that, right? And it may work for a little bit and you may get a certain type of clientele, but you're not really building a community. So when you put other people first and you go against the grain, right? And you're like, I haven't even taught a community building workshop in my own in-person community, and I've had it for like a year and a half. I bring other people on, right? That's the difference.
Yeah. Well, that is also what I mean. You being able to look at an opportunity, but to see it for its potential and not for what has already been defined by somebody else. And I think that's really where we're starting to see so much growth and expansion, where you're also open to, oh my gosh, I never thought about that. Let's share that. Like, let's keep growing. Let's keep expanding and creating an environment where people know when they walk in, they will be transformed, even if they don't raise their hand, even if they don't, have a mastermind to share. They're just in there to receive. And I think that's also what's so beautiful, allowing people to come to a safe space to just receive. How often in our life, especially as busy working moms, do we ever just get a moment where we're like, oh, you're just pouring into me? This is just a gift to me. We're always so conditioned to do, and like check off, like, let me make sure that everybody else, like I have to pour from my empty cup. And if we ever get a moment where we allow ourselves to rest, there's shame involved. Until you're putting this environment where people can go and say, hold on, I received and there's no shame in that.
Yeah.
They love that. They encourage that. They want more. Holy moly. Like it's like a constant up leveling the vibrational energy. So no wonder people feel so motivated. You literally are elevating them to a different platform and a different plane when they leave. And that, I think, is what makes your community so special, because I don't even know I think we should change the name. It's not even a community. That doesn't do enough of its service, because that's just like the beginning. That's what, like, the first level. But it's like you open the door to what you've created. It's like 35 different staircases that she could walk through.
I know. Well, I mean, like, one of my value propositions is I give female founders the mic, right? Where other spaces kind of shut people's mic off, where I love to give people the mic. I'll give you a perfect example where we had this incredible event in Orange County. Kelsey, the founder of Everme & Co., came and did like a journaling mindfulness situation. We were on the sand in Newport Beach. It was amazing. And people were sharing, and it was like a 2-hour event. And I noticed one of the girls had not said anything, but I could see her writing. I could see her kind of like taking everything in. And I asked her, I was like, hey, do you want to share? And I gave her upfront, I was like, if you don't, it's totally fine. But I want to give you this opportunity to speak because you're the only person who hasn't. And she's like, oh my God, thank you so much. Like, I'm always nervous to do so. And I'm like, this is the space, right? And she spoke, and it was so valuable. And we were able to pour into her. Mm-hmm. And I think it's so important to go into spaces and to go into communities where you feel like you're able to talk without being judged and just be open about the situations that you're in, because it opened up such a beautiful conversation that other people also resonated from, right? Where she was sharing about something that she was going through, but it hit for so many other people. And I think communities, whether you join them for business or personal or a combination of both, really, really be selfish with your time, because you really want to find the ones that make you feel good, right? Where you said you leave feeling elevated, where people actually care about you, whether it be for business or life, just in general. It's so important to find those and to test them out, right? Be a part of 2 different communities, 3 different communities that you can also give. And it's a life changer.
Wow, it really is. And I love that you said that. It's okay if you join groups or walk into a room. If you don't feel a connection, that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. That's your body and your soul telling you, hey, this isn't our space. And I think, we have to be protective of our energy and our boundaries, right? If there's so many shiny objects, so many groups we could join, so many events, and I love trying it out. Try out everything. Stay curious about life, but then trust your own self to know that wasn't a connection, and there's nothing wrong with that. We're not supposed to be a match for everybody, because then that's going to create space for you to have the time and the availability to be a part of the group that you're meant to. One of the things I'm always helping my clients with is learning how to say no, right? That's one of the biggest things we have to decondition ourselves from is no is not a bad word. But one of the shifts that really made a difference for me is like a no for me is a heck yes for somebody else. So if I allow this invitation to come through and say, hey, can you be a part of this mastermind? It's not a fit for me. Amazing, because that person over here is dying for that opportunity. And I need to trust that if it's not for me, it's meant for somebody else. And if I create space, then the opportunity that's meant for me now has a place to go. And so I think when you allow yourself to trust that you know what's best, then you will create the opportunities to be in those groups and then be able to be there 110%,
Yeah.
right? To be there to receive and to share and to grow and to support. Because while it is so important, I think, for the community to be run by a leader, it has to have a leader, even if the leader doesn't dominate or stand over people or make it feel like a hierarchy. People do look for guidance because not everybody has the energy and the capacity to run and own a community, right? I do think we're all here for different reasons. And I think it's so important for us to look to that person to see what's possible, right? To see, oh my gosh, she created this. She's showing up. Look at her. She's doing the things that I want to do. And when you're in the right energy, you don't see that as competition. You see that as like, oh my gosh, that's excellent behavior. I can't wait to model. And so for you, you've got the online communities, you've got the in-person communities, and I'm dying for you to come up to my neighborhood to do an in-person meeting here. So where do you see community going in 2025? Because I do feel like there's some shifts happening in women's energies and what we're expecting of ourselves and the people that we are choosing to spend the time with. But what do you see for your community in 2025?
Yeah, I want to go back really fast, but to what you kind of said before, where it's okay to test out communities and leave. And there's also seasons of life, right? I've had Like-Minded Collective for almost 3 years now. And there are women who are friends of mine, right? Like Scotty, who have not joined the networking calls. Maybe it's the timing, maybe it's the season. And it's totally fine, right? I'm not like, oh God, is there something wrong with Like-Minded Collective? Like, no, this doesn't fit the season that you're in, right?
Yeah.
There are people who leave and join. They still love me. They still love the value of the community, but it's okay to be selfish, right? Like I was saying, when it comes to community. So don't ever feel bad for not showing up or leaving. Like, never apologize. And if a community leader truly makes it about everybody else, they will understand that. And you don't have to worry about that at all. So,
but that's that chemistry, that match. It's like those friends that you have where you don't have to talk to them every day. You see them after 6 months. It's as if no time has passed.
Exactly.
Right?
And the community, yeah. And the community doesn't fit, right? I don't really cater to aspiring entrepreneurs all the way to women who have raised millions of dollars. Like, my community is really for certain stages of business. And my hope is that people grow out of that, right? Because you also want to put yourself in different rooms to meet other people.
Yeah.
Community also works with different stages of life and business and what you need. So don't be afraid to leave, shift, come back. Like, I mean, I get emails from people like, I'm so sorry I had to unsubscribe from your email list. Like, I'm just over. I'm like, totally. Thank you for letting me know. But I am not offended.
Yeah.
So I get it. As far as your question, where do I see community? I just was talking about this with somebody. Community is going to be the center of everything when it comes to 2025. The conversations that I'm having with people, even now, like yesterday, I had a conversation with this lady. She's like, oh my God, I go to these events in person and I just need to create something myself because they're not it, right? And I think the problem is that people think it takes so much planning and so much to do to bring people together in real life when it's so easy and it could literally just be an email or an in-person conversation or asking for a referral from somebody or just connecting with one person in your area to just meet up for coffee, right? It doesn't have to be at a venue. You don't have to get food and drinks and this. It's going to be the center of everything because people are now more in person. They're willing to travel more to events. They just want that genuine relationship with people. So I truly believe whether it's virtual or in person for your business, for your life. Like the only way to grow your business is community. Like because so many more coaches are coming up, right? So many different businesses, and there's multiple copywriters, mom coaches, coaches for coaches, fitness instructors. I mean, literally everything. So how do you separate yourself from the other person who's doing it? It's you. And how are people going to get to know you is if you bring people together and show who you really are, right? Whether that be on Instagram or LinkedIn or Facebook or lives or Zooms or trainings or networking, like building community is so, so, so important. That's why I love podcasts. I think podcasts are a great way to build that community and for people to get to know who you are at your core. I love it.
It's, and I think to your point, our brain loves to overcomplicate things, and putting yourself out there and being seen. Yes, it can be very, very scary, but it's like start small, right? Go grab coffee with two of those moms that you ran into at carpool drop off, right? Or just throw out there that you want to go for a walk on Saturdays. And if they come, great. If they don't, at least you're getting outside and moving. I think it's allowing us this kind of flexibility that it doesn't necessarily need to follow any rules. It doesn't have to be linear. It doesn't have to look like somebody else's community. And community is you and another person. It doesn't have to be 100 people.
Yeah.
And, I think it's important for us to also lean into what feels good to us naturally. So I had an online community, which I loved. I don't have the capacity to run that. And I was getting very burned out. And I said, okay, this is not how I'm meant to support and guide. And now I'm doing events at my house on random Friday mornings. And it's incredible. They're free. People come over. We meditate, we ground, we breathe, we drink a bunch of coffee.
A dream.
And then they go out. It's a dream. But if I hadn't said no and shifted away from that online community, I wouldn't have had the space and the capacity or the open space in my brain to even create the next thing. So I really appreciate how you said, it's okay to outgrow. It's okay to try things out. And maybe they work for a little bit and maybe it's okay. But I think we have to always stay curious and open. And even if your community is 2 people, really being so mindful of how those people make you feel. And like you said, when you walk away from these events, are you feeling drained or are you feeling enlightened and motivated and activated? You can give a lot of energy out and still feel the energy come back to you. And that to me is a soul connection. And you really are creating these spaces for women to choose. Like, I want to be in that space, which is so incredible, right? Because they're already learning how to trust their intuition, but they're finding their match. And I think that's so important for us to allow that to be. And I do agree with you, especially with, life is going to continue to life. People are going to continue to people. And that we know is that the older I get, that never changes.
Yeah.
Life will always, even from the minorest things where someone cuts me off in traffic to the heartbreaking things that we're seeing on the news. How can we continue to muster up the hope and the energy and the passion and the love and the empathy for life when we're feeling so discouraged and disappointed? I think community is going to be massively important. And you created communities outside of what's going on in the
absolutely. So I mean, there's so many things I want to touch on. The first thing is, I can't tell you how many mom groups I'm in, like local ones, where somebody's like, hey, does anybody have like another daughter who's 2 years old who wants to meet at the park? And like 10 people will respond.
Yeah.
Moms need community, regardless of what stage you are. I know moms who have kids in college that are like, is anything going through this with me, right? Because the moms of littles have communities usually.
Yeah.
At every stage of life with kids, or, regardless of what age they are, regardless of how many you have, you are going to need people who get it.
Yeah.
And so I am an introvert at heart. I hate going to events that I don't put on because I'm like, oh God, am I going to walk in and like just be a deer in headlights, which I usually am. So for me as an introvert, it's easier to facilitate than it is to go blindly into an event. So for any mom who's listening who's like, oh my God, I need community, but I'm an introvert, literally post in a Facebook group page in your area and people will flock and just give them a meeting point at a park or a coffee shop or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's how you start, right? That's how you find your people. The women that I have connected with from like-minded OC have become my friends where I can just call them and be like, oh my God, I'm having a day. And they're like, okay, like my girlfriend called me. She's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm leaving this event right now. What's up? And she's like, I'm just having a day. I'm like, okay, do you like salty or sweet? And I just brought like a bunch of candy and we just vegged. So like you're building those relationships in your community that will take you past your community. I started one called Founders Who Shabbat, which is the most recent one for Jewish women entrepreneurs. And this is exactly what I needed because I felt paralyzed in business. I'm originally from Israel. So after everything that happened, I'm like, I couldn't even grow my business or build my business, right? And this is before I launched Cultivate Your Community. I'm like, I have a program that I have to launch. Like, I need to get my shit together. I don't know if I can pass on this. Sorry.
You can.
Okay. So basically, I started to just get women on emotional support calls. Eventually, it became an in-person meetup. And then when I was talking to women, they were like, oh, I want to be a part of this. So I made it a worldwide community where people can join. We have Slack and we have virtual and we have in-person.
So good.
And it was very much what I needed in the moment. And like we were talking before we hit record, this is a space for women to just come and like be, right?
Yeah.
They don't need to be a certain thing. They can just be, like show up, check in on each other. Like whenever we see something horrific happen or good news, like today, I posted a song in Hebrew that I'm like, this is like my feel good song for the day. This is what I'm listening all day because we got some sad news, you know? And so it's like, you're creating a space for women who need it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the feedback that I got on the first call we had. They were like, I needed to do this. I didn't know how. I'm so happy that Inbal did. Right. So creating a space for women who need it like, if you have the desire to create something, please go with that desire because there are other women who are relying on you to build it.
Yeah.
So just remember that and women will find you.
I love that. Thank you for saying that because I think what we desire is meant for us. What you desire and what I desire, two different things. And that's not by accident, right? Like we're both here for a reason. We're here to live this life and to create and share and connect, develop those relationships that we're meant to develop. And it's really getting into those spaces where it's like, I do have desires. I have this vision. I have a dream. Great. Let's go create it. And I think looking to people like you who've done that kind of mapping out, who have the blueprint. We don't have to reinvent the wheel, but putting yourself in spaces where you say, I like what she's doing. I'm turned on by that. Lean into that. Get curious about that. If there's anybody, I always say, if there's people that make you have a ting in your stomach when you're looking on social media, unfollow them.
Yeah.
If there's people that you can't explain why you just cannot get enough of them, lean into that too. That is your body and soul's way of saying they've got something. This is a connection. Like I'm putting her in your space so you can go for a reason. And I think really understanding that so much of what's happening around us, while a lot of it can be really hard and heartbreaking and devastating, it's not for naught. There's always a purpose. And while it might not be explainable right now, it's connection, it's relationships, it's survival, it's bonding, it's hope, it's love, it's generation, it's creating stuff that's going to allow us still to keep living and hope this life. And, I think that's so important. And going back to what you said at the beginning, we can have all those masculine desires to go out there and crush life and change the world and make all the money. And we can do it our way. And that means bringing in relationships and friendships and love and emotion and heart. And I think that's what's becoming so beautiful now. It's that's becoming more normal than it was. And, to what you said, there's so many coaches, there's so many new businesses. I also see that as like, thank goodness. That means more people are catching on. That means more people are getting brave. That means more people are creating these unique spaces. And now more people have places to go. I mean, you've literally created this beautiful space for you and your soul sisters out of something that is devastating. And now you'll have a unit. Now you'll have a support system. Whereas before, somebody might have had to learn how to go through that alone, and maybe they wouldn't be healing the way that they are now without it. So it's like if there's something on your heart, it's not there for random, right? It's there for a reason. But so, and are you still offering the community guidelines where you would walk people through how to create their own community? I got to be a part of that. And I wasn't sure if you were still offering that.
Yeah, so I have Cultivate Your Community, which Scotty went through live 6 weeks. I've actually turned that into a self-paced mini course where people can purchase. And then I also just get on 60-minute strategy calls with women who want to like kickstart a community. We just chat for an hour. I'm on Voxer for a week with them after, and we build a community. And this goes back to what you were saying, letting go of things, right? Where I ran the program twice and I'm like, I can't add any more consistency on my schedule. Like,
Yeah.
I need to remove the programming and just go with what lights me up most, which is what are my communities, right? However, I truly believe the more communities there are, especially run by women for women, the better this world will be. So I want to help women do that, at an affordable rate where you're not paying an arm and a leg. There's no 3 months, 6 month, 1 year commitment. There are coaches who do that. I don't have the capacity, but I do want to help you build a community. And so that's kind of what I'm helping with women now. Very short, help you build your community, because my passion really is in person. I don't even know if you know this, but I put in an offer on a space. So like a co-working/event space in Orange County. So that's where my heart, is.
And I've had a one-on-one call with you, and I think it was maybe 30 minutes. In 30 minutes, I had a page of with brainstorming ideas that I would never have come up with my own. So I just also really hitting home that you can create transformational life and magic in one conversation. It doesn't have to wait. We don't have to wait 12 weeks, 6 weeks, or the end of 2025. In fact, I would love for people to say, if anybody has this, like, oh, I want to do that by the end of 2025. No, we're doing it now. And if you need some guidance, like Inbal, you have this beautiful way of, you have a beautiful way of looking at things from a tops down perspective that it's so objective, but yet so supportive in a way of like, you get so emotionally invested. There's so much energy that I felt from that call. I was like, she really wants.
I remember what we talked about. We talked about you talking to military spouses too, right? I loved brainstorming with you. Like, that's truly my superpower, is just like looking at where people have hurdles. And I'm like, have you tried this? Have you tried this? Like, and I always tell people, like, I will throw everything that comes in my brain at you, and you tell me what works, what doesn't, right? Because what works for you may not work for somebody else, but I'm giving you what my experience is. And I think because I've been running a community for 3 years with tons of workshops, talking to so many women, I have so many ideas in my head that I'm like, let's create stuff, and what works for you may not work for somebody else.
You've got such a beautiful skill set, and you're nurturing it, and you're learning how to put it to work. And I think that's what is so great when we've got somebody out there who has this gift. Let's take advantage of that. I always say, gosh, I'm going through perimenopause. I'm knocking on the door of 50. I don't want to go out there and become a personal trainer or a nutritionist. I don't want to do that. But could somebody just tell me what I should be eating so that I can focus on the stuff that I want to focus on? You're the same way. It's like, if you've got this beautiful dream, but you don't know how to actually put that into a plan of attack, or need some just support, go to you that you have these gifts and this like experience that you can now share with other people. And it really is this beautiful way of going back, like, we don't have to work harder. It's just getting smarter, but opening yourself up to those conversations, right? Yeah. Like allowing yourself to be pulled to the people that you're pulled to, and trusting that that's not by act, that that's on purpose, right?
Yeah. So, and it's just really the best thing that I help women with is, what is the next step, right? Okay. What can we take the next step to build this community for you? Wow. And like I was telling the lady that I spoke to yesterday who wanted to build the community, and she's like, okay, how do I work with you? I'm like, we just do 1 hour session and 1 week of Voxer, and then you implement, and then you come back to me when you're ready for more, right? Like, I am here when you need, and that's the best, right? Because there's no pressure, and I just help as needed, like a personal trainer, right? You don't work with a personal trainer for an entire year. I'm like, I would go broke, right?
Or broke.
Yeah.
Totally.
Just give me the workout. Exactly. Give me a workout. I'll pay you for the workout, and then I'll do it myself, and then come back to you when I plateau, right? It's kind of the same thing in business.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love that. You truly are amazing. And I have to say, I have so much respect for you. You've done it yourself. You've followed the callings and you've allowed yourself to pivot. You've gotten curious. You've let yourself really be led by your heart. And I think that's what's allowing you to create these heart-led businesses, right? And you're modeling that for other women. And I think it's beautiful because it means we don't have to, not everything has to be linear. Just because it was done this way ahead of before us doesn't mean that if it doesn't work for us, that's a reason, right? And I think it's a beautiful space. You really have created a space for women to be themselves.
Thanks.
And you're encouraging that and you're giving people like that's being supported and loved. And I think that's going to be so powerful. In fact, like that's what I see for 2025. It's going to be this really empowering step for people to step into self, right? Like, this is me. This is what I'm here to do. This is what drives me. This is what lights me up. And this is the group of people that support that. And if you don't, that's okay. It's not about judging others or trying to please everybody. It's about really getting this curated environment around us that allows us to continue to be self. And you've started it. So
Thanks, Scotty. I mean, I also want to like reflect this back on you also, because I've seen your shift in 2024 and how vulnerable and how open you are. And I think it's amazing to showcase that to your community because it allows them to be like, okay, like I can pivot too, right? And it's going to be okay. It's going to be better than okay when I do. And I can do it in front of my whole community because everybody is human, right? So for you to share everything that you've been going through and pivoting and all of that and showcasing it with your community, I think is super powerful, right? So everything you said about me, like I'm reflecting that back on you because I see the changes that you've made and I love it. I love to be inside people's heads with them because it gives me ideas and it gives me permission to do that too. So
yeah.
I love it.
Community. This is community right here. I love it. I love it. I'll put it all in the show notes, but how can everybody follow you? And if they're local, how can they get involved in the in-person events?
Yeah. So everything you possibly need is on my website, inbalclaudio.com. There, I mean, like I am basically a walking link in bio at this point between community coaching, candles. So everything is on there, whatever you need. And I love moms. I don't even know if we talked about this, but I am a mom of three. I have a 5'3" and a 1.5-year-old, 2 girls and a boy. I've launched a business while pregnant, had launch delays, build a tech platform, and I'm telling you, you can do it. And if you ever get into any sort of like hurdle of like, okay, I want to start a tech platform or, oh, I want to start a community or I'm a mom, how do I do in person? Please reach out. I would love to just like riff with you in voice notes and just tell you that it's possible, So I love
that. Yeah. Because I think there are a lot of times when we have a hurdle, we think, oh, maybe I'm not supposed to. It's almost like if you see a hurdle, this is just an opportunity for some growth or for some more information. And so if you feel stuck, take that sign that you need to call Inbal.
I mean, like you want to connect with people, right? Like I'm not a coach, right? Go to Scotty for coaching. But for me, like if you just want to ever be like, hey, how did you do this?
Yeah.
Or what systems did you have in place? Or what did your communication look like with your spouse? Or anything like that I can kind of just like riff with you on. And, even on Instagram, please send me a message because like I said, the more women who start businesses, who continue their businesses, who build communities, supporting other women, the better.
The better the world will be. Well, you're amazing. Thank you for everything that you're doing. You're such an inspiration. And it really is not everybody is meant to be a community gatherer. And so I really appreciate you creating this space for people who would otherwise never be connected to those relationships. So I adore you. You're incredible. I'm elevated. I'm at a higher vibration than I was when this conversation started.
Likewise.
Everything will be in the show notes. And please reach out to Inbal and me. We are here for you guys and love it. You're amazing.
Thank you.